3 to 5 bullets or elements from each 2.0 section. And these are things that you're saying, this is what we're going to directly teach and assess. Now, for a proficiency scale to really be powerful, you want your customized version, you want everybody to use the same customized version. You don't want one teacher to customize it one way and another teacher customizes it a different way. So you want to do your customization work school-wide or district-wide at the beginning, and then once it's customized, you stop calling it a menu, and everybody commits to, this is what we're going to directly teach and assess at the 2.0 level. So a school or district might agree for this particular proficiency scale, it's going to be these 4 vocabulary terms for AIT 1 and these 3 bullets for AIT 1, and then it's going to be these 4 vocabulary terms and these 3 bullets for AIT 2. And now the scale is ready to use. All right, we only have a few minutes left together, but I want to talk about our third project goal, which was to align instructional resources and assessment items to each level of each proficiency scale. And this is something that schools and districts can do on their own. I highly recommend that if you're implementing proficiency skills, you take your existing assessment items and your existing instructional resources and you align them to each level of each proficiency scale. You shouldn't need to go out and find new assessment items and new instructional resources. It should just be an alignment task. And here's what that might look like. This is a scale for multiplication at 4th grade. You can see the 3.0 level has 2 elements, multiply to solve word problems involving multiplicative comparison, and explain how to multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by a 1-digit whole number, and how to multiply 2 2-digit numbers. I located some assessment items that were related to this content. I pulled them off the Parks released items database, but you could use, again, the assessment items that you are already using. You don't need to go find new ones. And you just start aligning them to different levels of the scale. If you look at the 2.0 level of the scale, I've just added a column to the right where I'm putting assessment items that correspond to different levels of the scale. So down at the 2.0 level, section 1, I've got some items that test students' ability to interpret a multiplication equation as a comparison and their ability to use arrays and equations to represent multiplication situations. And then those number problems at the bottom are testing their ability to do multiplication either of 2 2-digit numbers or a 1-digit number by a 4-digit number. At the 3.0 level, you'll see I only have 1 item, and this goes back to the idea of covariance. The item asks students to use both target elements in combination, and it works because they do actually covary. And then I've got an item for the 4.0 content. Here's how a teacher might turn this into an assessment. Here, you can see there are 3 sections to this assessment. Section A corresponds to the 2.0 content, or the simpler content. Section B corresponds to the target content, and Section C corresponds to the more complex content. And here are some sample answers that a student might give on this assessment. Here is their pattern of responses. They got the first 2 correct. They got the second 2 incorrect. Section B, they got that item partially correct. Section C is completely incorrect. Looking at this pattern of responses, I can translate this into a score on the proficiency scale. If you recall, Section A was the 2.0 content. This student clearly has a good grasp of interpreting multiplication situations and representing multiplication situations with equations. But what they don't know how to do is the actual multiplication. And if you look at Section B and Section C, it bears that out. In Section B, the equation that they wrote, 4,368 times 4, that's correct. They've interpreted the situation correctly. The incorrect part is the answer, 16,242. That's not the right answer. And then in Section C, where they've kind of explained their reasoning, it becomes clear that the strategy they're using to perform multi-digit multiplication is not correct. So you can translate this into a score on the proficiency scale. You can say, oh, They have partial success at Score 2.0 content and major errors or omissions regarding Score 3.0 content. So they're at a 1.5 level. But here's the really powerful part. You can talk to the students about their assessment results, and you can say, you know what, here are the things that you are great at. You are really good at interpreting a multiplication equation as a comparison and using arrays and equations to represent multiplication situations. You're knocking it out of the park. You did great at that. Here's what you need to work on. You need to work on multiplying multi-digit numbers, and then the student can work on that. And really, if they get that going, they'll be doing just fine. So that's the power of a proficiency scale, is it enables a student and a teacher to communicate really clearly about where the student is at and what the student needs to do to move forward. And this is a quote from Dr. Marzano saying just that. With a well-articulated sequence of knowledge and skills, or a proficiency scale, it is much easier to provide students with feedback as to their current status regarding a specific learning goal and what they must do to progress. So, in sum, a proficiency scale clearly articulates target content, simpler content, and more complex content within a measurement topic, and that articulation facilitates specific feedback to students after an assessment. Now, before we end, I want to talk briefly about social studies because I get a lot of questions about it. We are currently working on social studies. We have finished writing